to Business Mentorship Keeping It Real, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in our guest blog found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest is Marica Gaspic Piskovic, a pharmacist, an author, and certified holistic health and wellness coach who has a passion for educating others on how to manage their gut health. We're going to discuss how you balance a successful career and self-employment when starting a side hustle. And Marica joins us from Burlington, Ontario. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Trish, for having me. Greatly appreciate it, and thrilled to share my journey with everyone.
Well, you know what's really important, I think, is that our viewing and listening audience understand that you've had a very long-term career as a pharmacist, and that when you shared your guest blog, I was reading that you started your business on gut health based on your own personal experience. But how did you find the transition? Because, you know, most of the folks who share their stories on our platform are corporate leaders who have transitioned to business owners. And you're in the process of, you know, having this really wonderful, robust business. So how did you make the transition from corporate leader as a pharmacist to business owner?
Well, I've had actually, like you said, a very rich career in pharmacy, and a lot of that wasn't all working as a pharmacist in the traditional sense. I also had leadership background, and I have a lot of, thanks to that, a lot of skills and experience in helping me project manage. So in doing the transition, it's about project managing. So I tweaked some aspects of my life where I reduced some responsibilities in my role. I've been fortunate to be able to do that. I focused on what do I need to do to strengthen myself. And that's where I enrolled in a holistic health wellness coaching course. And thanks to COVID, I had something to do aside from working, and it was great. And so I completed that. And I basically organized my time and activities. And once again, I kept looking for things I need, and also engaged with Instagram strategy marketing person.
Oh.
Yes. So I'm a pharmacist. So yes, I've had leadership and business experience in the past, which has been helpful in this process, but I'm not a marketing person. So looking for the support that I need, where I need it, finding it, and doing various activities and networking as well and rebranding, I guess, branding.
Yeah, for sure, right? I mean, I love your comment that, you know, I'm a pharmacist. So my trade and my experience, although I've had, you know, you've had a really rich career, is in pharmacy. And so how do you connect with these customers, right? I mean, you've got a wonderful message, you've got a great program. And I think the biggest challenge for most entrepreneurs is how do I connect with my target market? So can you share with our viewing and listening audience, perhaps one of the strategies that you've been using on Instagram? Because I know you're also on LinkedIn. So do you use those two platforms in tandem with the same messaging?
I didn't start off that way. I started different type of messaging on LinkedIn, more informational and, you know, validating, I guess, my knowledge and sharing articles and that sort of thing. And then now I've switched out and I basically use the same type of message. The key thing, what I love about this age, actually, and I think COVID has actually helped us, is that you have a greater reach this way than knocking on doors or meeting in person. I still go out in person, love meeting people. But you have a better reach and connectivity on platforms. So people with IBS are everywhere. They just don't wear a t-shirt saying that, right?
Right.
Yeah, maybe we should. My target audience is really professional women who lead dynamic lives, who have IBS. I know they exist. I'm definitely one of those. And by talking about the program, talking about what I can do on LinkedIn as well, also reaches that audience, so that I'm using my creative marketing messaging now on both platforms.
Oh, good for you. And so how did you find the creative aspect? Because I mean, obviously pharmacy is very structured, you know, it's based in science, and not that what you're doing now is also based in science,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of connecting a little bit more emotion to the whole issue. Because when you're trying to help people overcome obstacles, I took a look at your website, and you know, you've got this wonderful step program where you kind of help people identify, you know, some of the issues, and then you take them through a step-by-step process in order to get to a place where they can live and function to their own capabilities and in a wonderful way. So, you know, you mentioned that you have an international audience, which is wonderful on these platforms. Have you been able to connect? You know, I often hear people say, oh, well, what about the time zone? I mean, how does that work?
So you said a lot there. Yes, I actually love the creative side.
Yeah.
And actually, one thing I don't think I've shared with you before, I actually used to paint. So that I love
That's very cool.
yeah. So even though, yes, I have that science side and all that, so that's why I think I love the marketing. I love the creative side. And that is something that has been missing from my life for a long time, obviously, and aside from spits and spurts where I would engage in some artistic activity.
Mm-hmm.
So this has actually brought that home to me in a way, and being able to utilize all those things. Time zones. Yeah, it's you know what, it's about always negotiating about convenient time when you can connect with people, some mutually agreeable. And it's funny that you say that, and I draw a blank because I've been used to working in time zones for a long time, different time zones. In my past lives, I should say, corporately, across Canada and actually globally in with a pharmaceutical manufacturer. I think you just sort of like, oh yeah, you're in that time zone, you're in that time zone, so okay, let's just connect, sort of thing. That's where actually messaging helps. From the perspective that, yeah, you can instant message, and time zones are, you know, not a non-issue.
Right.
Connecting by um, online platforms, live like we are, yes, then it's a matter of negotiating mutually agreeable time,
Sure.
and it's not that hard to do, really.
Right, right. Well, you know, you've mentioned that COVID's had some really wonderful benefits, and one of them, I think, is connectivity. Right,
Exactly.
we're no longer inhibited to connect with people in other
No.
countries or in like-minded businesses, because we're all very used to now. You know, if you weren't techie before, you certainly are now, because we had to become at least somewhat comfortable with managing these platforms. One
Exactly.
of the things that you mentioned in your story is that you've taken a path of lifelong learning. And, you know, I think for our viewing and listening audience who may be at a age and stage where they're starting their career, or maybe they're looking at a fork in the road and they're kind of going, oh, I'm not really sure what I should do. Perhaps you can speak a little bit about to the commitment of lifelong learning, because I think gone are the days when, you know, we get a diploma and we hang out a shingle and we do that for 30 or 40 years or until we decide to retire. Give us a little bit of perspective on how you feel about lifelong learning.
Um, I don't believe in stopping. I think to me it's about curiosity and wanting to know, and it's about personal and professional development. Um, in a way, we've been sort of thrust into learning from one perspective when I think about the journey of the internet and technological tools available to us. So anyone in any workplace will have encountered that. And I know sometimes there's challenges and there's struggles, or you embrace that. And I believe in growing. Till the day I breathe my last breath.
Mhm.
Sounds morbid, but basically, yes. While I'm alive, I believe in growing personally and professionally. And so it's easier to embrace learning, and
Right,
it's easier to um, get into something new and different. I think it's all about a mindset, really. That's
right,
what it's me.
right.
That's what it's about. It's about a mindset of what do you see for yourself in your journey through life. And I have friends of various stages in their lives, and it's interesting to see who decides when that they're done with something
Right.
in their life.
That's very
And
true, right? Because we go through, I think the decades present new opportunities, because, we establish, as you've mentioned, life skills as well as business skills along the way. And then sometimes opportunities present itself and you just can't say no. You have to sort of dive in and pursue that opportunity. Obviously you've done a lot on the online platform with getting your certification in holistic health and wellness. How did you find that experience, being that you were in a learning platform online?
I really enjoyed it. I think I like the fact that it gives you that flexibility. If you're still working, and then there was no set times that you actually had to be online for certain things. There are definitely some opportunities, the program that I took, where you connect with people. They had live connects through coaching demos and information. And so my schedule allowed for it. I would do that. So I did have a connection with the people, and I actually connected with another coach in training, which was really great. And there was a time zone at play in there as well. And so we had our, I guess it's, to me, it all comes down to structure.
Right.
It was the structure of how we organized and having that connectivity with people even online. And I was okay. I'm fine with that.
So tell us a little bit about your light bulb moment, because I mean, clearly you're moving along in the world of pharmacy. You've had a few deviations, you've expanded your expertise within the field. And then what actually made you decide that you wanted to start your own business helping folks with gut health?
Well, might be a stage in my life.
Sure.
I think when you've done something for a certain a number of years, you come to the point where you're saying, I'm good.
Right.
But the other problem is continuing to live life with purpose. And so that was a key criteria. What am I passionate about? I'm always passionate about making a difference in other people's lives. And it has been my experience of working in healthcare that made me identify some gaps. A lot of times I see that people aren't, I don't feel enabled to take care of themselves. And so what it takes to enable someone. The gut health side, actually, I was inspired by a friend who actually asked me questions and came to me in confidence about their journey. And I thought, oh, yeah, I do know this stuff. I lived it. So the other part of it, that process, is that I'm now talking about something I've never talked about openly, and least of all online. And so there's been a bit of a learning curve or a comfort happening there. And I talk about it to educate others. And I do believe that there is a need out there to have gaps. So a person goes from diagnosis to what am I doing now? And I do know from a healthcare system, just the way it is set up, that sometimes people need a lot more support to go from A to B. From going from A to B is a lot of side steps, like you said, and it's not easy. It's about a lot of behavioral change, which is not easy, especially when you're at a certain point in your life. You're just like, well, I'm just used to this routine, or, have this slice of pizza if it kills me. Well, you could
Maybe not a good idea.
yeah, you could live your life better. And I believe that. And I believe that I made tweaks in my life, to put it mildly, more than tweaks, to change, to grow, to live a better life, and to be in a better form to live my life and enjoy my life. So we send our cars out for routine maintenance. Why not our bodies?
So true. That's so true. Now, if there was a quality that would be help folks to transition from that, A that you mentioned, to diagnosis, and then B, readjusting their lives in order to come up with a new path. What would be the personal quality that you think somebody will need? You know, we've talked about things like time management, and we've talked about things like attitude, and, you know, deciding on what journey and path you want to take. Is there a personal skill that you will identify with in someone who's able to make that transition with a little hand holding and a little education along the way?
Motivation to get to the other side. So you want to have a vision of what you want your life to be like. Um, the key thing behind something like IBS is that it sidelines you from enjoying life. So to manage that, you have to have a vision of where you want to be, what life looks like, not unlike corporate type of visions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, from that perspective, it's that motivation that will drive you and that desire to get there. And that will help to get through the difficult times.
So it's almost like the client has to have a light bulb moment, right? I mean, because you need to I think one of the things perhaps that we're not really aware of is we're in a lot more control of our health journey than we believe we are, right? I think sometimes we rely too much on the medicine and the pills and the, you know, going to see one specialist or another specialist, and we're too frightened maybe to try something new for fear because there's nobody there to guide us. So do you find that the clients that you're working with are actually looking to you to provide them with practical tools that are outside perhaps that sort of, you know, 1, 2 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to a more comfortable place?
Exactly. And it's about, well, the holistic aspect, right? So the holistic aspect, sorry, is all about you, who you are in totality. And that does have an impact on your health and well-being, and then the different triggers that can affect IBS.
Mm-hmm.
I downplay drugs for a reason, because it's complicated.
For
And
sure.
um,
And what works for you might not work for me, or vice versa, right? So you can be in this,
exactly.
we can have exactly the same issue and physical symptoms and challenges. And then, you know, we sit down and talk and say, well, I'm doing this. And you say, well, I'm doing that. But it's working for you, but not working for me.
And that's the other key aspect behind it all. It's about individuality. And as we are individuals, our health condition is different. It might all kind of sound the same in terms of, well, it's about food and exercise and so on and so forth. But what foods do you eat? What foods bother you? Maybe things bother me that don't bother you, kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's going through that process about identify that. And with drugs, the one thing I can say, because I am a pharmacist, I can actually do a review and an assessment on people's medications, having the qualifications behind me. So there's always that question like, does this work? Does it not work? I had the same experience myself. I was taking something that was a motility medication. After a while, I'm like, I don't think this works. It's a
Right.
little hard being objective yourself, but
Yeah.
I just, and so it's also that's part of the picture, though. It's understanding like, okay, what is working, what's not working, in every aspect, but be it food, be it how you live your life, stress management, the medications. Are
Mhm.
they helping? Are they not helping? And, it's taking a step back and kind of like reassessing where you're at, where do you want to be, and what do you need to change?
You know, I think that really what you're doing, Marisa, is you're actually giving people life skills to manage some of the challenges that we all face on a day-to-day basis. Because what you're actually doing may be specific to a specific kind of, holistic focus, but the skills that you're teaching people actually transcend into all areas of life.
Yes. It's all the areas of life that do impact us. So exactly. Thank you.
Right? I mean, it's so true because nothing works in isolation, right? And
No.
I think sometimes just having someone like yourself that you can pick up the phone and say, or, go onto your contact page and book a session and just say, look, I'm having some challenges. I would like to speak to someone who has a different perspective. And what you're actually doing is giving them an opportunity to explore a different perspective with confidence.
Exactly.
And
Thank you.
that's huge. Don't you think that's huge? I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful when we come up with other challenges of life if there was a, the red phone, you could dial up somebody and say, can you help me with this? Can you give me your perspective? Because I just need to look at it from a different angle. And sometimes we get too caught up in the specifics of our own journey that we forget that there's another way to look at things.
Yep, it's unraveling life and kind of saying like, okay, you know what, I need to take care of myself, and taking that time to say, yeah, I need to do this now. And I know it's tough, and I get busy. I get busy lives, and the one thing I also get is that if you're not okay, everything around you is not going to be okay.
That is so true. Now, okay, so you've made the transition from corporate. You started a side hustle. You dipped your toe in the water, and you started a business that's now starting to grow. And when do you make the transition? Because I know there's I get asked this question all the time. When do you make the transition to say, okay, I'm going to let go of the J.O.B. and I'm going to dive right into entrepreneurship? What are some of the key indicators that you feel will help you jump from doing both at the same time in tandem to doing one solely on its own?
Well, that's a really good question. And actually, part of letting go of the J.O.B. is about letting go of an identity of a few decades, actually. And for me, I feel fortunate to be able to honoring that by sort of stepping down, stepping back a little bit. So that is something that still caused me anxiety, actually, just as I
Sure.
listen to you. And it's like, yeah, I have to let go of that. Okay. I think part of it will be also the level which the business will be at, obviously, because you can't do both. There's going to come that critical point where that you can't, that's not sustainable. So that's going to be a factor. And then I think mentally, I'm just preparing to say, yeah, I'm moving on.
Ready to let go.
Yeah, and it's actually been a long process from that mindset. I think that's the biggest one. And I know people who do go through that, but that's why I found something that I can translate into
Sure.
some
Well,
element.
you could take your past experience where you have confidence and where you have identity and where you have success, and then you can bridge that into crossing over into something where you take all of those life skills and business skills and apply them just in a new dynamic. And I think that's really a wonderful place to be, because, who doesn't want to be able to segue from a traditional 9 to 5 into something that gives you a little bit more freedom with success? And I'm really glad that you were able to share some of those issues with our viewing and listening audience, because that's an important step to take. It's almost like the last step, right? Is to let go of the old to embrace the new. So thank you for
Exactly.
sharing that with us. Now, one of the things that we do in the guest blog, and this is a wonderful segue to your 3 words of advice, which are live life authentically, and give our viewing and listening audience a little bit of an indication as to why those 3 words were so important or are so important to you.
I I do live my life authentically. It's to live your best life, you have to be authentic. You have to be true to yourself. And discarding, we often hear about, removing things that don't serve your purpose anymore. And so you feel better. I think from a emotional, spiritual side, when you do live your life authentically. Why are you putting up with whatever situation you might be facing right now that is stressing you out? And when you don't live your life authentically, you're actually adding a lot of stress internally, which does affect your health and well-being. So from that reason, you're enjoying life a lot more. You're being present in the moment. You are being you. You have one life to live, so live it authentically.
That is such wonderful words to leave for all of us, because, I think we all go through various different phases and transitions in life when, as you say, things no longer serve us.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes really hard to identify what's not serving us well, and to be able to let it go so that we can open the door for more authenticity. So that's a really wonderful way for us to end our discussion today. And I'm really very thankful that you were able to share with us sort of your real heartfelt connection with making a transition from into self-employment, because, you know, it's a huge hurdle to take. And we're going to need to have you back in another few years when you've made that transition and you've crossed the bridge, and you can share with our viewing and listening audience just what those challenges were and how you've been able to manifest a wonderful new authentic life for yourself. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you, Trish. I really appreciate it. It was truly a pleasure chatting with you. And I love sharing my path with everyone. And I definitely would be happy to be back.
Oh, great. That's great. Well, I'm going to mark it in my calendar. So we'll do that for sure. Thank you for joining us today for this edition of Keeping It Real, where we introduce you to the person behind the logo. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you'll find Marica's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea. Every sunrise is just for you, so come along.